Backlash wrapping up this past week in Puerto Rico. And one thing I'll say is Bad Bunny did not do any hosting. I was promised he was going to host Backlash, and he wrestled. He took on Damian Priest in the San Juan street fight, but he was announced as the host, and he didn't do any hosting. So I was a little disappointed that they lied to us like that. I think that was just essentially to tell the people in Puerto Rico about buying tickets. He's going to be there, but without spilling that he was going to be in a match, because they didn't have that exactly maybe set up yet. But probably just to advertise that he was going to be there in general in some capacity. And 25 minutes, the longest match on the card was Damian Priest and Bad Bunny. What were your impressions? Bad Bunny's return to the ring in a match that wasn't the Royal Rumble for the first time since WrestleMania 37.
Yeah, it was a hell of a match. Honestly, that was probably the match of the night, in my opinion. It was so much fun. You got to see some Puerto Rican superstars like Carlito showed up. He made an appearance. It was cool to see some of the old school wrestlers as well. It was a lot of fun, and Bad Bunny didn't disappoint. I love that Bunny Destroyer thing that he does. That the finisher he had on Damian Priest. That was really a good match. There were some good spots in there. Again, Savio Vega was there, so that was another bonus.
Savio Vega showing his age a little bit there. Carlito obviously not showing his age. Obviously, you get right back in the ring tomorrow. But yeah, Bad Bunny's Corey Graves said it during the broadcast. He says he's not just your fly-by-night celebrity showing up here. He puts in the work. And it shows. Here's the thing, 25 minutes, the longest match on the card. And I get it. Maybe you could probably say the Mr. T match at WrestleMania 1 probably was the longest match on that card. But for the most part, and probably out of the hundreds of appearances from celebrities, I cannot think of the last time that a celebrity match, a match that was, and only two people, it wasn't like 9 people and one was a celebrity. This was a one-on-one match with a celebrity, and it was the longest match of a pay-per-view. And that's not saying something negative about the pay-per-view. That's not saying like, oh, this was WrestleMania 11, which was a bad pay-per-view in general. This is saying it was the longest match of a good pay-per-view. Bad Bunny, Logan Paul, I don't know how they do it. Pat McAfee also, you can put him in there as well. But
of course you can.
WWE lately has been using celebrities way better than they have ever before, and that's probably why WWE is filling that arena. You saw in San Juan, Puerto Rico, they made a pay-per-view in an arena look big, and we talked about this before Backlash, and that's what you're going to get for Money in the Bank. You're going to get that exact look. You're going to get a look where the set looks different. Even SmackDown felt bigger because of how they do the set. And we've talked about this before. I love all those elaborate sets from the early 2000s, with King of the Ring and Armageddon and all those. But it's not money, and I always would hate that when they'd set up the Raw or SmackDown sets and people would say, oh, they're just trying to save money. I don't think that set cost any money. I can guarantee you that set that they set up for Backlash cost less money to set up than the traditional set. It took less people, it took less time, and cost less money because you're paying less people. But yet that set, even though being less, probably made it feel bigger because, one, you have a full arena. You had people on all sides. You didn't just have darkened seats. You didn't have the Raw set and then 12,000 people in a 20,000 seat arena. You had 17,000 people in a 17,000 seat arena. You had the place full. So the crowd itself, and in some instances, this was one of them, and we've seen it before in the 90s, the crowd itself is part of the set. When you watch things, a lot of times the crowd itself is part of the atmosphere. Think about sports. Think about when you watch sporting events like basketball games in domes. What makes it cool is the crowd itself. The part of the look is the crowd. Part of the look for the Super Bowl is the drone shot of the crowd. The crowd itself is like that natural stage. And I thought that's what made this look cool, which made this look like a big-time event, which made SmackDown kind of feel pay-per-view-ish because it had that same sold-out crowd, but not sold-out crowd like, again, we're used to with the Raw and SmackDown sets, and they tell us it's sold out. It looks sold out, looks different, feels different because of the layout. It doesn't take much, and we're going to get that for Money in the Bank because that's in an arena, and it's going to be an arena, but it's not like an arena like we saw for Elimination Chamber. It's got that, big time, like feel like you're in a stadium look like SummerSlam kind of look. And you know, and they sold that place out, and it was awesome. And in a pay-per-view like that, Bad Bunny and Damian Priest, and I thought that match was over probably 10 minutes in, and I thought, yeah, this was a pretty good match. Did what they needed to do. But I mean, it's crazy how they just kept going. They went into the crowd, and then they, you know, were kicking out of finishers. Yeah, I mean, give it to, like I said, Bad Bunny, give it to Bad Bunny, give it to all of the celebrities that WWE has been using as of late. And that's kind of the reason why you're getting those big crowds, because WWE has been hitting on all cylinders. And they've been using celebrities right. They've been using arenas right. They've been using promotion right in the sense of how to make these pay-per-views feel big time. Backlash, I mean, let's be real. I mean, the Attitude Era and those, every pay-per-view felt big-ish in those times, right? But in the sense of actually feeling like a big time pay-per-view, this Backlash felt like SummerSlam, and every pay-per-view has felt like SummerSlam. Elimination Chamber felt like a SummerSlam. I imagine Money in the Bank is going to feel like SummerSlam. I mean, everything that WWE has been doing lately and making these pay-per-views with the press conferences beforehand, obviously, and the SmackDown the night before, and bringing that all in, yeah, it was just a big time event. But Backlash and probably WWE won't be returning to Puerto Rico, you know, anytime soon. And part of that reason, as I was reading, and you know, it is what it is that the Backlash came to Puerto Rico because of the tourism committee paid, I think, $1.5 million to WWE to come to town. So as WWE came to town and sold out an arena and made lots of money, part of the reason they were also there was because they were being paid on top of that to be there. So, you know, unless they get paid again by the Puerto Rican Tourism Committee, which a lot of people were saying, you know, probably not in the future, just because you do one thing and then you want to do something else. Next year, you don't want it to just be, we're putting all our money into WWE. Where next year, we're going to give Bad Bunny to put some money on to get a concert, or some other artist who may not come to Puerto Rico. We'll put that $1.5 million towards something different so we can have, you know, eclectic options here. But I definitely did enjoy WWE going to Puerto Rico, and even if they don't go again for a pay-per-view, I think they got to hit that place up for a Raw or SmackDown. We need to not have that be the last televised event for 18 years. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just to kind of, you know, swing back a little bit, I really like this. I like the setup for the you know, the entranceway. That was cool. It was, you know, you got a couple like graphic boards like on the side. Like it was like they came in at a cool angle. It almost reminiscent of like back in the day when you know, I remember like John Cena coming through the entranceway at Madison Square Garden. It was just like one of those tight areas where, like you said, the fans were all over you. It was cool just to set up. I mean, they got 18,000 people in there. It was a hot crowd from start to finish. I mean, even Zelina Vega, no disrespect to Zelina Vega by any means, but Zelina Vega got a hell of a pop. I mean, she rocked her, you know, her flag, you know, the Puerto Rican flag. And, you know, obviously we all knew, I think the whole crowd knew that she wasn't going to beat the Nightmare, you know, Rhea Ripley. That wasn't going to happen, but at least she got her moment. You could tell she was very moved by the crowd. Like, you could see the tears in her eyes. It was a very moving situation. And, you know, Rhea Ripley just destroyed her like she always does. That was a cool moment. I just thought the crowd was just on point. It felt like it was an 18 years, you know, too long, because it felt like they need this. They need to be there at least once a year. I know you talked about the tourism, you know, the $1.5 million and all that stuff. But I think WWE would be smart to go there, because even if it's once a year, that's a special occasion, not only for, you know, for the people there, but it's a special occasion for us fans that are like, oh, they're back in Puerto Rico. We're going to see a live show from, you know, not, you know, on our continental 48. Like it just has a different vibe to it. I thought not only was SmackDown a quality show, but I really thought Backlash was really good. I came into it thinking, you know, it'll probably be a decent show, but overall, you know, I watched it live. I wasn't sure if I was going to. I know we talked about it last week. I wasn't sure if I was going to watch it live. I just wasn't sure. And I'll be honest with you, I was glued to the couch, you know, for a few hours, and I enjoyed every second of it. I thought every single match was good. Seth Rollins, for example, he made Omos look good. But here's my problem with that. Omos needs to start winning matches, or it's going to be Great Khali all over again. So that's my biggest issue with that match. I thought for what it was, I think it was a 10-minute match or just under. I thought it was a decent match. Seth Rollins does what he does. But again, what are we doing with Omos? He's
Especially too with the
7'4".
direction you say there. The direction of Seth Rollins is it's a pretty predictable direction with Seth Rollins. We'll get to that a little bit later. But with that direction being pretty predictable, it's okay to have that loss at Backlash. Make Omos look good, and then essentially then move him, like, similar to what Cody Rhodes is doing, right? Cody Rhodes, obviously, he's gone on a different trajectory, but I mean, he's got this Brock Lesnar thing going on, and they're trying to do their best to make you completely forget about the Roman Reigns thing. And I understand that's at a bigger scale, but I promise you, if Seth Rollins won his match on Monday night and put himself in the finals, he won 2 matches, so he puts himself in the finals for the World Heavyweight Championship. Nobody cares that he lost to Omos after that. And Omos looks good. So, you're getting both kinds of things. It's like, looking in sports, if you have this like small school in college athletics beat a big school, it does a lot for them. And then if the big school ends up winning a championship or going on and not, then it doesn't even matter that they lost to the small school. So two people kind of get something out of it at once. We looked at, like the NCAA tournament, that 16 seed beating the 1, they don't need to win the championship. Just doing that is enough for them to get, where they need to
keeps
go.
Losing though. That's the issue though. Omos keeps losing.
And then, exactly. So Omos getting the win could have been, perfect. You get him the win, and then Seth Rollins, it means nothing to him. It's not really like that.
It's super frustrating. Like, I get Omos is very raw as a competitor, but like if you're gonna have a giant, and they did this with Big Show back in the day. Like they, back in WCW, they protected him for a while. Like he got to work with some of the best. And again, Seth Rollins is one of the best. So I guess to that point, it's good that he's working with a guy like Seth Rollins. But to me, I feel like they need to protect him more. He shouldn't just be losing matches like that. I get it. They made a cool spot. They did that whole super stomp and all that. But to me, like, Omos they dropped the ball with this ever since the whole AJ Styles breakup and everything. He's not really a monster to me anymore. Like I see him come out. Yeah, he's big. He looks great. But guess what? I don't have any stock in him right now because let's be honest, he's not that impressive. From a storyline perspective, it's just to me it's disappointing.
I think if you were to actually do anything with him, he needs to go away and then come back. And then be on like a win streak. He needs to do not Brock Lesnar go away for 20 years or anything like that, but he needs to go away for a couple months and then come back and then just tear it up. Because I think it's too late now for him to get to the wins and kind of look at this in this current run. You need like a freshness because essentially you'd go, well, why are you winning now when you couldn't win before? But he's coming off of 0-2 or 2, at the last 2 pay-per-views. So he's lost the last 2 pay-per-views. Go away, come back maybe like after SummerSlam. And then and then just say like I got refocused. I got taller, stronger, whatever you can be.
Taller.
WWE can spin it right. They're probably spinning his height the way it is now, right? The camera angles and stuff to make him appear a certain way. So he's got to go away because during his current run, like if he starts going on a win streak, that would be kind of a discussion itself. Like, okay, well, why did he lose those other matches? If this is the same Omos, you kind of got to go away and come back. I'm not saying change your name necessarily, but come back as like, similar to what we've seen before. We've seen Jinder Mahal. When he was world champion, he didn't just do it. He didn't just break up a 3-man band and then win the world title. He kind of took some time, came back, went on a run. And then took some time and then came back and now he's we saw him on Raw this past week, essentially wasting time saying he's coming back again.
Speaking of 3MB, 3-man band, Drew McIntyre is another guy where he went away for a while. Like that whole gimmick back in the day, he was like the chosen guy from, chosen one from Vince McMahon. He went away and just, he repackaged himself and, look where he is now. He might be out of a contract soon enough because from what I've been gathering, it doesn't sound like they're close on a contract. So I'm curious to see if he goes to AEW.
Well, yeah, that's kind of a story for another day. But to go off your point of him repackaging, I don't think Omos needs to do that. Omos doesn't need to Cody Rhodes this. He doesn't need to go away for like 5 years and like make himself on the indies. He just needs to kind of go away and maybe lose MVP or whatever it is. Just come back, like what you do with Bray Wyatt, what you do with all these other people, where you just come back and you get repackaged a little bit. Maybe still Omos, still the same. Maybe even still with MVP, but just in a way that it sounds like this is fresh. We're going on a win streak. because remember Brock Lesnar when he came back, right? He wasn't the Brock Lesnar from the early 2000s. He was just like no one can beat him, unstoppable. Same with Roman Reigns. Look at that, Roman Reigns. I mean, he didn't do it essentially for storyline purposes, but he went away around WrestleMania 36, right, because of COVID. Came back at SummerSlam, and I mean, just like that. I mean, he just went away for a couple months, came back, and it's like, and he's still Roman Reigns. He's still the same look, essentially, except for new teeth. But other than that, yeah, he came back as like a whole different thing, and that's what Omos needs to do. Maybe not become a 3-year length champion like Roman Reigns. I don't have those kind of expectations, but come back like Roman Reigns came back. Maybe come back and interrupt the main event picture and get yourself in the main event picture. Same with Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman could use that right now as well. Maybe breaking these ties from Ricochet and doing a thing where he comes back and gets back to the Braun Strowman who won the world title, essentially in the main event at WrestleMania 36. He needs to do that as well. But one thing I want to touch on, obviously, quickly here, Backlash. We were talking about women's matches. Zelina Vega got her moment, but I'll tell you one thing that not necessarily surprised, but yeah, I guess surprised because we knew she could do it, but we didn't know if WWE would let her do it. And that's Io Sky, Bianca Belair. What a kickoff match to that pay-per-view. 18 minutes of Io Sky and Bianca Belair. And, this was one of those we thought it was going to be like Zelina Vega. We thought, okay, this is just the post-WrestleMania nobodies that these guys are going to get over real quick before their next big feuds at SummerSlam or after. And Io Sky, I mean, I was tricked for a minute thinking, hey, maybe she's going to do it. Maybe Bianca's done here. Maybe her run comes to a close here at Backlash. Io Sky, good job in we knew she could do it from her NXT days, but again, good job for WWE to show that, yeah, Io Sky isn't just this throwaway part of Damage Control. She's got some potential.
And nearly a 20-minute match. And you know what? I got to get your thoughts on this. Like, I'm watching that match, and I was very, very it kind of threw me for a loop for a second because Bianca was kind of getting booed, and Io was getting all this. Io was like the face in the match. It was so weird. She was so over. I was like, every time she made a move, it was like Io was getting the pops and Bianca was kind of getting the boos. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is different. I guess I was a little shocked by that, but I got to get your thoughts because that was a cool moment.
Again, that's kind of the sports thing, right? In the sense of you're going to get behind the underdog. If you we kind of talked about a few minutes earlier, like let's say the NCAA tournament, you're going to say, I'm not I forgot, who was it? Fairleigh Dickinson or something like that, who won this year over Purdue in the, those people didn't walk in there that didn't have, a dog in the fight. They didn't have anything negative about Purdue. They didn't hate Purdue and they didn't know anything about Fairleigh Dickinson. But when it looked like it could be a game, all of a sudden you're going to pick, Fairleigh Dickinson. You're going to say, hey, I want to see something different. I want to say I was here for that. And that's what they did with Io Sky. Essentially, if Bianca Belair just won the match real quick, then people would say whatever and move on to the next match that they really care about. But when Io Sky showed that, hey, I can compete, and hey, I am more than just Damage Control. Like, Damage Control kind of pigeonholed me for a little bit into what I can be and what they want me to be on the main roster. But don't forget what I was in NXT. And when people saw that again, they were all of a sudden excited to see it because they know Bianca Belair. They're nothing against Bianca Belair, but they know what they're going to get with her, and they know what to expect. So they were seeing something that they hadn't seen in a while, and they were like, hey, all right, this is interesting. I want to see if she can really do this because we know she can really do it. And let's see how far she can take this. And that's why the fans, I think, were getting behind her.
Yeah, the crowd was hot for that match. Again, like I said earlier, the crowd was hot all night long. I'm sitting here just looking through the card here, and it was, and you forget for a minute, it's like, oh, wait, Austin Theory, Bobby Lashley, and Bronson Reed had a hell of a match too, which I wish it would have gone longer. It was a sub 10-minute match, but for what it was,
reminded me a lot of I feel like we've seen a lot of these recently. Like I think what was that at Survivor Series when Austin Theory became the U.S. champion, right? He had a similar kind of match with the U.S. belt on the line, that triple threat match. I think it was Bobby Lashley and Seth Rollins in that match where he kind of had to, do one of those things where like somebody does a finisher on somebody, then he does a finisher on them, then he gets a pinfall kind of thing. I think, what was it, Bobby Lashley, what he did, like a spear on Bronson Reed, and then like Austin Theory then went and, did something on Bobby Lashley, got the pin, if I'm recalling it correctly. But I'll tell you,
that's what it was.
One match. We talk about finishers and talk about results. I love the result of this because again, doesn't matter, right? And this is one of those things I've talked about many times before. That this is what I've talked about at house shows before, right? The championship's not on the line. So if the championship is not on the line at house shows, like it wasn't on the line at Backlash, you can toy around and have different results. And one different result that we wouldn't necessarily see if the championships are on the line, letting the Usos and the Bloodline get the win over Matt Riddle, and KO and Sami Zayn. The titles aren't on the line, so you didn't cost them their titles. You didn't have to make this some sort of long-term booking, but you let the Usos not go down the direction of just being losers. You let them get some of that momentum. Let them be formidable foes. Like we talk about with Omos. He keeps losing. We're going to look at him the way we look at him as a loser. But if you let him get a win here and there, it keeps his credibility. Okay, he lost to Brock. We got it, but he beat Seth. All right. So he's not, he stays in the middle of the pack. Okay. He lost to this team, but beat that team. Okay. So, you kind of keep that credibility going.
But Solo to me, I thought he carried the bloodline. I thought it was Solo's night. It really was.
And that's another thing, and we saw it before with Sami Zayn in the bloodline, and when obviously at Survivor Series, you kind of trickled into the idea of breaking it up, but then you kept it going for a little bit longer because there's more we can get out of this, and that's what they did. Obviously, we saw Jay and Solo kind of, having at odds with each other in the match. Is the bloodline going to break up here? And then if they would have lost, I think that would have been kind of too quick because we have the dissension and then the loss. So it kind of, okay, you got the dissension, you got the loss. This is going to probably be over by SmackDown, right? But you got the dissension, but you got the win. So it's like sports, You see these two teammates not get along with each other, and if they lose, oh man, this thing's going to blow up. But these two teammates not get along with each other, but they win the game. You're like, okay, they can coexist all right, they got the job done. So like we saw with Sami Zayn, the Bloodline got the win at Survivor Series. We can keep this going for a little bit longer, and we saw that at Backlash. If they got the loss, that would have been a bigger, that would have just been a complete blow up Bloodline.
But that relationship is really frayed. That's really frayed.
It's hanging on a thread. It needs there was two out of three things went wrong, but you got one of them right, so it's hanging by a thread. You know what I mean? So
I'm just curious what's going to happen with Roman Reigns and like what he's going to do, how he's going to deal with that, because obviously, like you mentioned, there was a moment there where it looked like Solo was going to drop the Samoan spike on his brother, and I'm like, oh boy, for a split second he had it there, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. I'm just curious to see what Roman or what Paul Heyman relays from Roman about this, because obviously he's the wise man. He's Roman's messenger because Roman doesn't show up on shows all the time anymore. So I'm just curious to see how Roman and / Paul Heyman are going to navigate this, because that's an interesting storyline, because you're right, they got the win. So at the end of the day, victories are great, but there's still some dissension there.
Well, yes.
So there's a little bit of issue that we need to figure out.
They're going to break up, obviously, eventually. Everyone breaks up with everybody in the world of wrestling. But essentially what they did by letting them get the pinfall is they lifted up the skydiver, and right before they dropped him, they said, not today, maybe tomorrow. And they let us stay, and it's like Roman Reigns when he beat Cody Rhodes or he beat Sami Zayn. You think he's about to lose. You think this is it. And you go, not yet. And you're moving on to the next level. Yeah. So, he moved it on to the next level. We get to have the Bloodline exist in that capacity for just a little bit longer before, the time is perfect. Like we saw with Sami Zayn at Royal Rumble. They bled us all the way to the end of the Rumble, and then boom. And this is going to go down the same path. They're going to keep us hanging on till the very last minute, and then everything's going to kind of happen at once. And here's the thing: if they got the loss and that happened, then you're ruining it. I feel like when it's over, it's not going to be over like an announcement. It's not going to be over on SmackDown. It's going to be something that, it's going to end. It's going to be like we saw with Sami Zayn. I don't know. Is he not with Roman anymore? It's like it's over. Boom, done. Like he hits Roman with the chair. End of that, right? And when this comes to an end, it's going to be that aha moment where
it's going to be at one of the big shows. It has to be at one of the big pay-per-views. You can't just do it on a regular show. You have to do it on a big.
Yeah, it's going to be something that is noticeable. You're not going to question the Bloodline when this happens. You're going to say, it's over. They're together, and then something's, the chair shot, the Samoan spike, something's going to happen. Boom, it's over. And that's the end of it. So the bloodline holding on for just a little bit longer. And then the main event, I don't know why they had to call this a double main event. I don't know why they needed to add that stipulation there in at the last second. That wasn't really necessary. Cody and Brock, the main event of the night. I thought it was, for what it was, a great match. Cody gets the win. And, I do like the repercussions after this, because rarely do we see Brock coming back for more. Rarely do we see Brock trying to, get this revenge. Normally it's people wanting another shot at Brock. Normally it's people feeling like, that if they get another chance at him. But, Brock is like, no, like, I'm not done with you. Kind of like a face. Brock came out on Raw being like a face. Obviously, he's the heel because he cost Cody in the match on Raw. But, wanting more, and that's interesting. And good for them to get some color on Backlash the organic way. Really kind of added to that match. Only 9 minutes long, one of the shorter matches on the card, but told a good story. And again, people talk about Cody losing to Roman. Where do we go from here? I'll tell you where we go. This is where we're going. And it's keeping us entertained. And yes, Cody's probably going to get Roman down the line. But for now, I mean, what they're doing is main event stuff. It's keeping us entertained. We always talk, the title is essentially a prop. Cody's in the main event of Backlash. I don't think he would have been in any higher of a spot if he was the champion, right? If he was the champion, where would he have been at Backlash? The same spot. So he's doing all right without the belt. He's still getting the same push, if you will.
And here's the thing, too. You can tell the respect that Brock has for Cody, because he's given a lot to Cody. Like when he got busted open, it wasn't like the old school, you blade yourself. That was a legit injury. Like, he went the hard way to get busted open. Like, you could see it on his head. Like, to me, he's giving a lot back to a guy like Cody Rhodes, because obviously there's a ton of respect there. Between the two, I'm sure Brock, just like everybody in the business, respected the late great Dusty Rhodes. But to me, if Brock Lesnar is doing that for you, that should tell you all you need to know about a particular wrestler. I mean, we know how great Cody Rhodes is, obviously, but when a guy like Brock Lesnar is doing, is taking these shots and these bumps, and he's really selling for you, that is a big thing. And I'm looking forward to it. I want more, and we're going to get lots of more of it, because Cody lost his chance at the World Heavyweight title. So I'm curious to see how he'll get back into that picture eventually. He's gonna get his shiny moment, but I'm curious to see who comes out. I think it's going to be Seth Rollins. I feel like the whole world thinks it's going to be Seth Rollins, but I did see a video that was released by Edge recently that he wants in, and he wants that belt. So, I mean, maybe Edge could take it instead of Seth.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, but to finish off the Backlash talk, yeah. I mean, a decent main event, a good pay-per-view, no Roman Reigns on the card, and WWE could still deliver, and good for Brock. Just when you think Brock is done, I think that's probably the big thing too. We thought he was done in 2015, and then he signed that new contract going into WrestleMania. Just when you think he's done, I mean, yeah, even after Backlash, you thought, okay, maybe he's done here. He's another one who just kind of, oh, wait, we got more Brock. Like, look at SummerSlam last year. We thought Roman and Brock, okay, this is done with. Brock's going to go away now. We're done with Brock. And then there we are. There's Brock. He's back. He's not done. I want Brock to leave when he wants to leave, but I'm glad he's choosing not to leave right now.
And he's in a good storyline. He's in a good storyline. I think that's the thing. Like, he's in a good storyline. It's not one-sided. It's a true storyline where each competitor in the storyline is getting one good shot, and then it's a counter shot. It's like back and forth. It's like a boxing match. One guy's getting a good blow. The next time, another guy's getting the blow. To me, this is the type of stuff that I want to see from Brock Lesnar, and we're going to get it for a little bit. So I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the ride on that one.